Today we're going to be taking off our nostalgia goggles as we look at the top 5 Nintendo 64 games of all time. Let's start with the first of our games, Super Mario 64. For many gamers, Super Mario 64 was the first game that introduced them to 3D gaming. This game set much of the framework for the 3D platformer genre of the 90s and early 2000s, spawning many clones, some of which were successful, others not so much. Now this alone is not enough reason to be included in this top 5 list, but as a game assessed on its own merit, the scope and design of Super Mario 64 still holds up well by 2022 standards. Obviously, graphically, the game is quite primitive. However, this doesn't take away from the experience where players can explore varying well-designed open-world levels with hidden secrets and special abilities to unlock. As well as a memorable soundtrack, all of these make Super Mario 64 still a solid Mario game by today's standards. The only problem with the game is the game's horrible camera angles. After having played modern Mario games such as Super Mario 3D World, the transition back to Super Mario 64 can feel a little jarring at first. However, fortunately, most of the game's experience isn't impacted too greatly by this. The 3D platformer genre may have died in the mid-2000s, but 3D Mario games have lived on, giving us some of the best gaming experiences, and we owe this to Super Mario 64. Super Smash Bros. Not much of an introduction needs to be said here. Super Smash Bros. Launched the franchise for what has now become the king of multiplayer games. Never had we seen a crossover of gaming IP where all characters duke it out across varying interactive stages from multiple gaming franchises. Compared to other fighters of its day, Super Smash Bros. Did away with the health meters and instead introduced the percentage damage meter. As damage is taken, the percentage increases, and so does the likelihood that you'll be booted from the arena. While there is a single player component to the game, the real appeal of Super Smash Bros. Is its multiplayer mode, where up to 4 players can fight each other in all-out chaos, using various items to knock each other out of the ring, while avoiding the many hazards that threaten your position. This chaos makes for one hell of a party game. Super Smash Bros. Also enables players to customize the multiplayer experience, including the ability to switch off all items. This means that those who are competitive and would rather win based on skill rather than attributed to luck could bring greater balance to the game. While the graphics and controls are a little jarring compared to modern Smash Bros. Games, Super Smash Bros. On Nintendo 64 still holds up as a solid multiplayer game even by today's standard, making this one of the best Nintendo 64 multiplayer experiences. Majora's Mask. It was a difficult toss-up between Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, and while Ocarina of Time is the grandfather of modern 3D Zelda games, ultimately Majora's Mask won out due to its unique art style and interesting story and characters, which creates a world which is captivating for players. While the game's main epic involves preventing the end of the world, much of the game's design is focused on short story quests, many of these involving the various quirky characters across the world of Termina. These side quests give players a greater glimpse into the individual characters' lives, as well as the mysteries of Termina, making the sense of impending doom much more impactful as the player progresses through the main quest. Seeing the consequences of our actions and the impacts that these have on individual characters and events in the game truly makes this one of the most immersive Zelda games ever created, and one of the best Nintendo 64 games of all time. While its main story is short in comparison to Ocarina of Time, I don't think I've ever felt more engaged with any other Zelda game since. Diddy Kong Racing. Now, it might be controversial to include Diddy Kong Racing over Mario Kart 64 in this top 5 list, especially given that this is really a Mario Kart clone. However, based on the single player alone, Diddy Kong Racing wins out due to its adventure mode, which adds greater purpose and longevity to the single player game. The game takes place on an island which acts as a hub world with various regions to uncover, providing players with an added sense of exploration as they discover and unlock the various levels scattered across the island. The game enhanced on Mario Kart by including various vehicles including cars, planes and hovercrafts, adding to the longevity of the game and the replay value. The varying vehicles play a factor where many levels have various routes which can only be accessed depending on the vehicle chosen by the player. This makes for some varied gameplay, particularly in multiplayer mode, and definitely makes for a fun racing experience. The only negative for Diddy Kong Racing are that some of the controls aren't quite as well defined as Mario Kart, and some players who are used to Mario Kart might miss the jump feature when it comes to drifting.
This thing ain't steering right.
But otherwise, the gameplay, art style, and design more than make up for this shortfall. The game holds up as a solid racing experience, and while a little dated in some aspects, still holds up as one of the top 5 Nintendo 64 games. Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie is definitely my favourite Nintendo 64 game of all time. Banjo took everything that was good about Super Mario 64 and enhanced upon it in its own unique way, introducing fun characters with humorous dialogue, a memorable soundtrack, and an overall art style that is a true example of how art can transcend the technological limitations of its day and stand the test of time. Based on the same fundamentals introduced in Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie saw many improvements to this framework, including better controls, greater variation in level design, and various paths which encouraged exploration and rewarded the players through uncovering of secrets. Players learn various abilities as they progress through the game, bringing a variety of gameplay mechanics and makes for a fun overall game that never loses its appeal, even up until the final boss. There's not really much to fault about this game, other than some minor annoying camera angles, which was quite common in early 3D games. Banjo-Kazooie holds up as not only one of the best Nintendo 64 games of all time, but I'll go as far as saying maybe one of the best games of all time. This is a game I would highly recommend playing on the Xbox due to its improved controls compared to the Nintendo 64 controller, and also its high resolution graphics. The widescreen format brings the game into the modern era quite nicely, and after a short while playing it, you might even forget that you're playing a game which was released almost 3 decades ago. So there you have it, that's my top 5 Nintendo 64 games of all time. Perhaps you have your own top 5. What do you think? Do you agree, or am I completely off the mark? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button.